Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So this is the finale video of bags, boxes, and luggage. I can't promise you I won't do some more luggage or bags or boxes later, but this is the end of this particular series. So today we're going to make a barrel top trunk, which I call a treasure chest. When I was a little girl and I saw the rounded top shaped trunks, I always referred to those as a treasure chest. I thought they were different from regular trunks. And I realized the reason they did that is so people couldn't stack things on top of them. I thought it was so they could put more treasure in it. So I just want to show you how I did this. So I boiled some water and you allow it to absorb the hot water. Make sure you're bending the piece of wood along the grain of the wood. Now, dolls, make sure you practice safety. I don't want anybody getting burned. Now, I used a popsicle stick to hold mine under the water just for about a minute until I felt like the little piece of wood was saturated. And it'll kind of take on a different color and you'll be able to see the flexibility of the wood. Now, when you decide to make the curvature in the wood, you want to use something that gives you the curvature you're looking for. So I started out with a Mod Podge bottle and then decided that that wasn't giving me enough of a curve. So I chose a smaller bottle to wrap it around. I had a small bottle of liquid stitch and I felt like the circumference of that bottle was more like what I wanted my curvature to be. And I taped it to the bottle with masking tape really, really tight, and I allowed it to dry overnight. And when it was dry, you just gently peel it. Now be really careful because the masking tape is not going to hurt it, but you don't want to be too aggressive and rip your wood or even damage it trying to remove it from your form or mold. And there you go. You have a beautiful curvature to make your barrel top trunk or anything else you want to have that shape. Now, dolls, here is my little trunk all sanded, fully assembled. I didn't go into all the details of how to assemble it. I will leave a link in the description below as to how I made my other trunks, and the technique is the same. Now, I made this one a little bit smaller, and I used the birch wood sticks instead of the popsicle sticks. But my process is exactly the same except for the barrel top. So, dolls, I just want to forewarn you in this process. I'm trying to make a rickety old pirate ship looking treasure chest. So I want to make it look kind of rough, kind of rickety, really aged, really vintage, really abused. So there are a lot of things that I'm going to do as we go forward in the video. So I don't want anyone to be alarmed. I will be doing a separate video to accelerate or enhance the aging, but here I want to focus on how I actually got the barrel top and made this little trunk first, but there will be distressing in this video. So I gave it a base coat for the actual curved piece of basswood before I went on to add the rest of the components to the details. I'm really amused with this little trunk because I feel like it would be something that might be found in an old attic or in a basement, worn and truly weathered. Possible water damage, warping, mildew, all of that, dolls. So, and here is the trunk. It's all dry, just showing you the side of that barrel top. Now I'm giving you a quick glance back at that curvature sample to show you the variation and what you can do with that technique. Now to add the slats to the top of my barrel top, I'm using the remnants left over from when I made the beadboard from the entrance hall. And I will leave a link in the description of that video below. Now, after I added all my slats to the top of my curved piece, I taped them down with masking tape really, really tight. And after I taped them, I actually used a rubber band to create tension to make sure all the little slats stayed in place. And keep in mind, the outside of my little trunk is a little bit oily from the stain. So this definitely was necessary in order to get my desired effect. So I allowed that to dry overnight, and here we are the next day. and I'm unwrapping it. The tape came off really easily because, again, I used that rubber band to create tension to make sure that my slats laid on that curve really nice and neat, and it was perfect. I truly love the effect. I love the way it laid on top of my curve. Yeah, it's looking really, really good. Very vintage, very old, very worn. So I did add another layer of stain, some darker stain, to the top of that barrel top to give it a deeper, more vintage look. Now, in this instance, dolls, because the top is curved, I did use the suede cording or leather straps to do the top of the barrel. Now the rest of the barrel will be done with the really thin coffee stir sticks, but the top has to be done with the straps because of the curve. Now I did show my process for putting on the coffee stir stick cords in another video. I'm not going to give a lot of detail in that, but I am going to just show me doing it. You can put it in any direction, put your straps and bands any which way you like, but I'm just showing you what I did, dolls. Now here I am making the lock with the broken jump ring and a small piece of wood. And I did want to show you, dolls, what I use for my jump rings. I don't generally buy jump rings. Most of my jump rings come from old broken jewelry that I have. But if you don't have jewelry or you don't wear jewelry, you can find really inexpensive, easy to cut jewelry and jump rings at like your local dollar store. Now I'm zooming it in close here because I want you to see this corner. It's weathered, but it's a little off center to kind of give the impression that possibly somebody tried to pry it open or dropped it or really did some damage to it over the years. So my technique in this one is a little bit more what I would call rogue. So I just want to alert you as far as what I'm doing and why it's looking like it is, because my vision for this one is a lot different from the previous ones. So definitely check the link below for a nicer, prettier trunk. Now I am going to go ahead and add the lock so you can see I did create sort of like a hinge latch to put on it to give it the impression that it locks or closes. And I did add a couple extra jump rings to tuck in for the straps, and I did add studs along those leather straps to again give it that riveted or nailed look. I'm really tickled at the way this came out. I can't wait to truly distress it and take that bright shine off those brassy studs. And here, dials, I'm just adding the brass studs across the top of the leather straps. Again, to make things look uniform, I did use larger studs on that middle strap. Again, just to give it a little bit more drama, to make it look as though one time in history that it was something very grand and something very lovely. Now I used another technique where I'm adding half a jump ring to the front in between a couple of the slats to simulate buckles for the straps that are hanging down in the front. And dolls, these techniques can be used any number of ways to create all types of different effects. Just allow your imagination to lead you. Or look at some pictures for inspiration. Now, I did want to give it the impression that it was lined in copper, so I used a little bit of that paper that I used on the ceiling of the rooming house kitchen and pantry. And I had some remnant pieces, some scraps. So I cut them to size and used them to line the bottom, the back inside wall, and the barrel top. And I actually used the back of the trunk to determine the size of the piece of copper I was going to cut. So I held the piece of paper up to the back of the trunk and cut a piece to size the inside because, dolls, you know I hate to measure. And it turned out perfectly. I glued it in and allowed it to dry. Again, I'm very pleased with the way this little trunk turned out. And I really, really love the copper lining. I think that looks very authentic and a lot of fun. And dolls, here is my finished barrel top trunk or treasure chest. This is part 10, the finale of Bags, Boxes, and Luggage. So here's a quick review, and there are links in the description There are links in the description below for all the videos in this series. And also, if you enjoyed this series, definitely let me know in the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye bye now, dolls.